Hi, this is Talk with Becky. Hey guys, welcome to Talk with Becky. Today we are going to start our series. I mentioned earlier that we'll be talking about, different kind of things that affect us. Not only affect us in a very bad way, but it makes us to delay ourselves in achieving what we want to do or be able to interact with different people in a certain level. So today we'll be talking about low self-esteem and to help me talk about that, I have a very special guest, and her name is Kasonde Luasi. She'll be able to, introduce herself, obviously, and also tell us if she has, at a certain point in her life, encountered or felt like she doesn't have enough self-esteem. So she'll be explaining to us what low self-esteem is, if she's been through it, how she managed it, and how far she's come. So I'll let Miss Kasonde Luasi introduce herself and what she does and all that stuff. So Miss Luasi, please can you tell us who you are?
She calls me Miss Luasi. That's fun. Hi, my name is Kasonde. I'm a good friend of Becky's, and today we're hanging out, so I'm excited to join this episode.
Yes.
And like she said, we're talking about low self-esteem. Mm-hmm. But before we get there, about me. So yeah, my name is Kasonde Luasi. Like I said before, I am very passionate about working with women, specifically women that experience sexual exploitation. That's what I'm passionate about. I've volunteered for numerous organizations helping women in that regard, specifically women who have been trafficked as well. So that's what I do. That's what I hope to do in the years to come. So that's a little bit about me. So let's get straight into it.
Yes. So have you been, or can you really say that at a certain point, a woman who is doing all these wonderful things, have you ever experienced low self-esteem? Like, how bad did it hit you when you did experience it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm, I guess when we're talking about low self-esteem,
yes,
or self-esteem in general, we're talking about like how you feel about yourself, on an overall. And in specific, if we're talking about low self-esteem, it's usually just a negative view of yourself, looking down on yourself, really feeling bad about yourself. And that's something I've struggled with for years growing up. And I know like it shows up in different ways because you're constantly talking negatively about yourself. You're constantly looking down upon yourself. You feel like you're not good enough. You feel like you don't match up to the standard. And it's caused by different things. For me, I think it's one of the major things is society, and how society like sets certain standards, and I felt like I never matched up to those. So for example, if I say in general, society maybe has a certain standard of what beauty is, you know what I mean? And if you don't match up to that standard, then you just feel so low and you think, oh my gosh, I'm not beautiful, you know what I mean? So like, I guess if we get real about it, you know what I mean? Like say in a country like Zambia where like beauty is like,
you have to have a nice body. You're looking up to Kim or Beyonce.
Right. You gotta have some booty.
Yeah, you gotta have a nice.
I don't know if I can say that.
Yeah, of course. We really trying to get as real as possible because there are so many teenagers out there that are going through low self-esteem because they have pictured themselves not to be good enough or not to be beautiful enough because everyone else wants you to have a very good shape. Have a good, grammar. Even those tiny little things can affect someone, with low self-esteem. So,
like for me, it definitely affected me, especially growing up and even in my teenage years, because I've always been small, always been tiny. So you just always felt like, I just don't match up. I'll never be pretty enough. I'll never be good enough or whatever. I also, another way it affected me is like I sing and I sing at church. I've always, sang for the longest time.
Yeah.
And I think that I always looked down upon myself and I always undermined like the talent that God has given me. So anytime, because I compared myself a lot with others. And that's another thing that you do when you have low self-esteem. You compare yourself with others. And so every time I felt like someone who sings better than me, is in the area, I shrink back and I'm like, well, they deserve to be up there. Let them do it. You know what I mean? And then I keep my talent to myself. And for me, that's what that looked like. So I think that definitely society and like the media and the standards that they set can affect us in how we view ourselves, because that becomes a standard for beauty, for success, for a lot of different things. But then also, like, I think maybe your upbringing, some people grew up, constantly hearing negative talk. It even could have been from school, like people are bullying you and constantly just speaking negative things into your life. And then that becomes your self-evaluation system. And like now, from hearing all that negative, you never amount to anything, you're not good enough, you're not pretty, you're not this, then that becomes your way of talking to yourself. And I think I've been a culprit of constantly talking down on myself, like calling yourself an idiot, like things like that. When you make a mistake, being unkind to yourself. And I think low self-esteem looks a lot like that. And for me, one of the first things with regards to overcoming it. And I think like I've overcome it to some degree, but I feel like there's always levels of it. Like, I don't think it's just a teenage girl thing. I think like we grow into adulthood and it just always shows up at different levels. And so I'm still in the process of overcoming it. So I've definitely come a long way and overcome a lot of it, but we're always growing and there's always a lot to be worked on. So one of the things is definitely acknowledging, that it's a problem, and being able to be self-aware. Like, I actually do this. I have to be aware that, this is how I talk to myself. I have to be aware of, the messages that are coming from outside and how they affect me. Just being really self-aware about that and acknowledging what this is. But I think one of the major ways that I've overcome and still fight low self-esteem today is, like, I'll say it in 3 ways. The first one would be finding my identity in Christ. Like, that's like the major way that I've been able to overcome that is I have to resolve, and I have resolved that my identity is not in how I look, my accomplishments, my circumstances, what people think of me, their opinions of me. Like, all those things, they change, One moment people like you and think you're great. The next moment, they just, I think in other things, and their opinions have changed of you. And if your identity is in what people think of you, then imagine how you just go back and forth between, oh my gosh, I'm so awesome. Oh my gosh, I'm not awesome.
I'm miserable.
Or your accomplishments, you're not always on your A game. I mean, I try to do my best every single time, but I'm a human being. I'm imperfect. I have flaws, and I won't always perform, the way that I want to. So I can't have my identity in that. All my circumstances, sometimes, I mean, think about relationships and rejection and all of that. If your identity is in that, as soon as, there's a heartbreak or a rejection, suddenly you're not good enough, And so for me, I've just resolved, like, my identity is not in any of those things. My identity is in Jesus. My identity is in what he says about me. My identity is that, I am loved, I'm accepted, I am a child of his, in whom he is well pleased, and it's unconditional. So no matter what happens around me, like, my identity is anchored in that. It doesn't mean like those things don't shake me or like affect me in any way, but I'm still able to remain steadfast and consistent and constant in my life, because my identity is in Christ. So I think that would be a big thing for sure. Like, don't find your identity in your in your achievements or accomplishments or lack thereof. Don't find your identity in what people think of you. Don't find your identity in how you look, you know, like all those external things or your circumstances, your weaknesses, your past mistakes. Those things don't define you. Christ does. And let that be like resolve in your mind. This is where I'm going to find my identity. That's what's helped me for sure.
Okay.
And then the second one would be to shift your focus. And I think low self-esteem does something. It makes you focus on yourself a lot. Okay. You're constantly thinking of yourself. I'm not good enough. I don't measure up. I don't this. I don't that. It's all about you.
Yeah.
And the more you really look at yourself, the more you see your flaws.
Yeah, true.
And so I think for me, one thing that has helped is to shift the focus from myself to something that's bigger than me. And in my case, my relationship with God, you know, it's God. So, you know, I just... You know, I'm like, yes, I'm weak. Yes, I have flaws. Yes, I have this, but God is bigger than that, you know, and God can use me despite that. And He's used so many people in the Bible, like murderers and stammerers and like the worst people you can think of. He still used them. And if He can use people like that, then He can use me, you know. So for me, instead of focusing on myself, I focus on God and what He's able to do, you know, with my flaws and with my weaknesses and with my imperfect story. So the third thing and the third way that I have overcome and continue to overcome low self-esteem is by not comparing myself to other people. I have to tell myself my journey is unique. My story is unique. My life is unique. God has created me uniquely. And I should not compare myself with anyone else. And I think we make the mistake of comparing our lives with others, our successes, how we look, whatever. And usually that can make us feel, you know, lower than, or like make us look down on ourselves, you know, because there's always going to be someone you think is prettier. There's always going to be someone who seems more successful. There's always going to be someone who's richer, who's like doing it bigger, you know, so that will always be a source of discouragement if you compare yourself to others. But if you look at your journey as being unique, you know, God has created you uniquely. There's no one who has your DNA anywhere in the world. Like that's how unique you are. So yeah, just don't compare yourself to others. You're not in competition with anyone. The more you do that, the more you harm yourself and the more you harm your self-esteem. So just don't, you know. See yourself as uniquely created. Your gifting is unique. You have something to offer that no one else can offer, you know. And if you shrink back and you choose to hold your gift to yourself because you're scared and you're not good enough or as good as the next person, then you're depriving the world of a unique gift, you know. And God can use anyone. Like God can use anyone, but you bring something special. You bring something unique to the table. So like for me, you know, as a singer, you know, like, and as a worship leader at church, as you know, like speaking in the flesh, there's people who sing way better than I do, right? Like, and if that's all I keep focusing on, and if I keep comparing myself to others, I'll never use my gift. I'll just sit in the back row somewhere and like bury my talent.
That's right.
But the moment I decide, you know what? No, God has gifted me uniquely, and I have something to bring to the table that other people don't, and they have things to bring to the table that I don't. So we complement each other rather than compete with each other. And I think I remember one of your sessions had that. And so I think like that's very important. So like, be grateful for the gift you have, acknowledge it, and like shine in it, you know, do the best that you can. And then also to help with that is celebrate other people.
Yeah, that's very true.
Other people who are also doing well, like celebrate with them, you know, don't be jealous of their gift. Like if you see someone excelling, like cheer them on, celebrate, like you lose nothing in celebrating with them. And there's actually something about celebrating others that kills jealousy, kills envy. Like just do it loud, you know, celebrate them out loud. So yeah, I think for me, those are the ways that I overcome what we call low self-esteem on different levels.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was really amazing. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. I mean, I know for a fact that so many people have learned a lot, and not only so many people out there, but also myself. You get to understand a different perspective on how someone is going through something, and to be able to listen to a woman like you to share a story of even you, because there's so many ways or a myth I would say that people think some people don't experience certain things, but I mean, for you, who is a great singer, I should say, you are able to say I've been through it, and I can say that I've been through it, and where I am right now is way better than the way I was before, and that's just great. I'm really humbled that you even agreed to do this with me. So I hope we do this again very, very soon. So guys, I don't know about you, but for me and everyone else here, we've learned so many things. And one thing, or let me just point out the three things that she had mentioned. Identity. You need to find your identity, and if you're a Christian, you know very well that your identity is in Christ. And when you have that, and you'll be able to understand that you don't need to focus on your failures or your flaws, rather you shift your focus and you focus on Him who is able to make you walk. And also, you don't compare. You don't compare, because when you do, you always find that there's someone who is better than you, who is able to do something way better than you. But what you can do is to appreciate yourself and also be able to celebrate others. So this has been Talk with Becky, and with our special guest, Kasonde. Yes, yes, yes. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And until next week, please don't forget to like my page, Talk with Becky, on Facebook, and also Melo TV on YouTube, and as well as Becky Maunda on YouTube. You'll find these videos there, and please like them, subscribe, and share you with your friends. And until next week, don't forget to smile. Bye.
Hi.